In 1994, a hero unlike any other emerged. A humble, segmented soil dweller and all-American hero, Earthworm Jim totally crushes it like the rad dude he is. His epic journey through the years has been wrought with heartbreak and perilous adventure in ways that would seem damn near impossible if they weren't already witnessed by gamers and journalists alike. What began as a lovely franchise baked with love, fresh out of the oven, ultimately ended up a writhing mass of pain and agony that could have made even Hitler cry. Many are aware of this turnaround for a once popular character, but why did it happen? How did Earthworm Jim, once voted best new character of 1994, wriggle his way down a hole of terribleness when he once squirmed joyfully in a garden full of positive reviews? Silly metaphors aside, the story of Earthworm Jim has many parts, all contributing to his current state of relative obscurity. So drop some acid, descend into a world you can scarcely imagine, and forget everything you've learned about the genus Lumbricus. This is the story you never knew. You'll be pleased to know that Earthworm Jim's story begins on a positive note. Playmates Toys, the creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, was salivating over the success of its early 90s franchise, which was something they really wanted to repeat. But they needed a new shtick. And so with games like Sonic the Hedgehog recently exploding in popularity, a certain Doug TenNapel presented a sketch of a stylized earthworm to Shiny Entertainment. Surely the market would throw more money at another anthropomorphized protagonist, thought the aspiring artist. Shiny Entertainment agreed with this sentiment. Thus, with nothing more than a sketch, an idea, and a dedicated team, production of Earthworm Jim began for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Fast forward to release, and the game was well received by every measure, touting unique gameplay with both a gun to shoot and a whip that's actually Jim's head. The title was bound for critical acclaim. But that's not all. The level design was beautiful and ever-changing, keeping the gameplay from getting stale, while still being bizarre enough to proudly fit the mold of the early 90s. Why, in just the first level, called New Junk City, you get to do nothing less than launch a cow into the stratosphere and make a hillbilly vomit up fish until he explodes. What do you have to say about this, Jim?
Groovy!
Okay. Carry on, Jim. What? He's riding a gerbil through a steampunk Atlantean tube palace while it eats mines for him. Oh, Jim, you really know how to push the limits of what the fuck. Continuing this style, between each level is a race against famed antagonist Psycro through an asteroid-infested space vortex. Should Jim lose any of these races, he must do battle with Psycro, who I should mention is an intergalactic bounty hunter with a beer belly to show for it. As Jim traverses these ever-stranger landscapes, he inevitably rescues his damsel in distress, much to the dismay of Anita Sarkeesian. But just as the interspecies romance is about to commence, the cow launched at the beginning of the game crushes the princess. And so Jim walks away like a true hero, leaving the aptly titled Princess What's-Her-Name to be crushed beneath the bovine until the credits finish rolling. Only then does the ledge break and send the cow and princess into the water below. A perfect opportunity for Jim to snatch that sweet crown. Because fuck chivalry. She'll be fine. Probably. With the resounding success of this 1994 title, Doug and friends naturally began work on a sequel to be called Earthworm Jim 2, with a pending release for 1995 on the very same systems as the first installment. The gameplay widely expanded that of the original, having a format that changed up the mechanics whenever the hell it wanted. One level you're playing through a familiarly styled landscape using your new slime companion as a parachute or grappling hook, and the next you'll be answering nonsensical trivia questions reminiscent of Jeopardy if Alex Trebek had a crippling meth addiction. Coal is to water as light bulb is to... wet coal? Well, that analogy didn't make any goddamn sense. It's the SATs all over again. Damn you, Meth Trebek! But the frustration is short-lived, for Jim soon perseveres, prompting some much-needed encouragement.
Well done.
Thanks, man. And with the very same encouragement after every level, Jim is able to fight through a variety of otherworldly acid trip-looking environments. His adventure finally culminating with an obstacle course race against none other than Psycrow for the heart of Princess What's-Her-Name, who turns out to be a cow. Then Psycrow turns out to be a cow. And Jim too. And that, folks, is art. I'm not even being sarcastic. The game was just as beloved as its predecessor, if not more so. Being as fun as it is bizarre, Earthworm Jim 2 found its way into the hearts of critics and gamers alike. Where does the downfall begin, you ask? Well, just as a meteor obliterated thousands of species of dinosaur, so too did the paradigm shift to 3D graphics kill the reign of many great franchises. Earthworm Jim was no exception. Sort of. Because moving from 2D to 3D was only a single nail in Jim's coffin, albeit a large one. Following the success of the sequel, Shiny Entertainment was bought by Interplay Entertainment, who inexplicably assigned Shiny to an unrelated project while VIS Entertainment took the lead for the upcoming Earthworm Jim 3D. While it's kinda funny that all of these companies have entertainment in their name, it's considerably less funny what happened next. VIS struggled to adapt Jim's gameplay to an extra dimension, causing a sluggish 3-year development cycle that ultimately spawned an exceptionally mediocre game in 1999, being called uninspired and unable to compete with similar platform games of the era. The concept seemed true enough to the first 2 installments, with Jim critically injured in a tragic cow accident and having to traverse his inner psyche to escape certain death. Among other things, however, the level design was bland compared to the mind-boggling backdrops that came before it. The camera was also poorly programmed, often being obscured by Jim so that the player could hardly see what was happening. To be fair, this is something which plagued many early 3D titles, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. The boss battles are also tedious and unoriginal in comparison to that. These things are just Jim riding around on a pig with slippery controls trying to collect 100 marbles. Come on, VIS! 1999 continued to be a rough year for good old Jimmy. A 4th game released no more than a month later than Earthworm Jim 3D sprang into existence thanks to an unrelated developer who went all the way down the rabbit hole of meh. Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy revolves around collecting 100 coins to advance to the next level. Throwing away any semblance of what made the franchise great, Menace to the Galaxy stripped away the artistic levels and creative ever-changing game mechanics. The most disappointing part being that M2G was on Game Boy Advance, so it wasn't even hindered by the conversion from 2D to 3D. It was just bad because it was bad. Fortunately, the Earthworm Jim franchise had more to offer than a series of ever-worsening video games. For not long before the release of the popular sequel in 1995, an Earthworm Jim TV show took to the airwaves. It successfully captured the ridiculous, surreal appeal of the initial game. Jim himself is even voiced by Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson. Other actors include Jim Cummings and Andrea Martin, all prominent voice actors in shows you watched if you didn't live under a rock in the 90s. It certainly helps that the show was developed by Doug himself, ensuring the magic was successfully transferred to a new medium. Other members of the original team, including but not necessarily limited to David Perry, were also keystones in breathing life into a show which easily could have been a flop. One fantastic aspect of the show was that it greatly deepened the universe, clarifying that Jim was not always a superhero. It wasn't until Psycrow accidentally lost the ultra-high-tech indestructible super space cybersuit out of an airlock while delivering it to another villain that Jim wriggled into it for the first time. Thus, Psycrow's main beef with Jim is that he fudged up his delivery and now uses the super suit to thwart evil. Poor Psycrow accidentally created his own arch nemesis. Oh well, it makes for good TV. So good, in fact, that the show ran for 2 seasons and was received, for the most part, very positively. You may be wondering why I chose to cover the TV series, since it technically premiered before even the second Earthworm Jim came out. And that's a reasonable thing to be wondering. On a human level, I like like to end things on a positive note. On a writer level, I think this really drives home the point that having members of the original team Doug TenNapel and David Perry was the common denominator for making anything Earthworm Jim related actually good. In fact, moving from video game to TV show is no small feat. Many video games do terribly or mediocre at best when converted to a different medium. Clearly, Doug, Dave, and friends did a stellar job. So well done, Doug, Dave. You succeeded in not only making a sweet TV show and video game series, but you also succeeded in making yet another franchise that could have the shit merchandised out of it. Let's not forget our question though. Why did Earthworm Jim plummet in popularity so much? From here, the answer is clear. It was a combination of transitioning into the realm of 3D games as well as new developers being unable to mimic the magic of the original team time and time again. Among other things, newer developers could not match the surreal absurdity and ever-fluctuating game mechanics that sparked the initial excitement. While reboots have been rumored and HD remakes already exist, the future of Earthworm Jim looks mysterious. Perhaps Doug, Dave, and friends will make a glorious return and blow our minds. Perhaps EA will buy the rights for Peanuts and serve up some bullshit for a quick buck. Perhaps nothing will happen. But no matter what originally made Earthworm Jim the best character of 1994 and a role model for invertebrates everywhere will always survive in the first two games as well as the TV show. The other titles, not so much. Jim getting fucked behind the scenes and all. That's the story. You never knew. Yo dog, we hope you liked that video. Here's another one in case you still haven't gotten your fix. And if you're still going through some serious withdrawals, consider following us on Twitter at Treesicle Team. It'll be the best high you ever had. See you next time, awesome people.